while discussing the most impactful, memorable, and popular antagonists within the series. Very few characters can rival Donquixote Doflamingo, known as the Heavenly Demon. Doflamingo is a complex and compelling character who embodies some of the most polarizing themes within the series. He has experienced the very worst that the One Piece world has to offer from both ends of the spectrum, as he has suffered from cruelty and he has been the one to cause cruelty onto others. In this video, I want to delve deeper into the life experiences of Doflamingo and how they have impacted his character. I'll be exploring how a child born into the highest echelons of One Piece society had transformed into a powerful tyrant as he was ruling an overthrown kingdom, dominating the black market, and he had become one of the most formidable pirates on the seas. I'll also be looking at how these experiences had culminated into one of the most iconic speeches in One Piece, which was delivered during the Marineford War. So without further delay, let's dive into my complete breakdown and analysis of Donquixote Doflamingo, as we'll start from the very beginning of his story. He was born into the noble Donquixote family in the holy city of Merijo. Doflamingo was destined for a life of privilege and power. His father, Donquixote Homing, was a celestial dragon, one of the world's aristocrats who consider themselves to be above all others. However, Donquixote Homing had become disillusioned by the celestial dragons and had decided to abandon his status and live amongst common people with his family. This decision proved to be catastrophic as he was stripped of his wealth and protection, and the Donquixote family faced hatred and hostility from the common folk who had long suffered under the celestial dragon's tyranny. So Doflamingo, his younger brother Rocinante, and their parents had endured extreme persecution. The young Doflamingo had witnessed his mother die from illness due to their impoverished conditions. This had fueled his deep-seated hatred for both the celestial dragons and for the commoners. These experiences of intense suffering and helplessness had profoundly shaped Doflamingo's worldview, and it had instilled within him a ruthless survival instinct as well as a desire to reclaim power. At the age of 10, Doflamingo awakened his conqueror's haki when he, his father, and his brother were moments away from death at the hands of an angry mob. His unparalleled rage directed at those that he considered beneath him, as they were daring to treat him with such contempt, had fueled his resolve to kill each and every one of them, and he had ultimately saved the lives of his family that day. Despite this, Doflamingo's anger towards his father for forcing them into such a situation had steadily grew. It culminated in him killing his father, hoping to use his death as a bargaining chip to return to Merijo and reclaim his birthright. However, he was rejected by the celestial dragons. This rejection solidified his resolve to gain power by any means necessary, vowing to make the world pay for his suffering. Doflamingo had then begun his ascent in the Criminal Underworld. Doflamingo quickly gathered a loyal crew, thus forming the feared Donquixote Pirates. His cunning, charisma, and brutal methods had earned him the title of Shishibukai, a government-sanctioned pirate warlord. Amongst his crew was a young Trafalgar Law who eventually grew close to Doflamingo's brother Rocinante. The relationship between Law and Rocinante and their experiences in Doflamingo's crew is something that I cover in more detail in my video on Law's backstory, so definitely go and check out that video. Doflamingo's influence also extended into the underworld, where he had operated as the infamous broker called Joker. He controlled the black market trade of weapons and the artificial devil fruits known as smiles. These were manufactured using the powers of the world government scientist Caesar Clown. Doflamingo's ambitions led him to the kingdom of Dressrosa. He had utilized his cunning and the powers of his Ito Ito no Mi, a devil fruit which allowed him to create and manipulate strings in order to overthrow King Rikudoldo III, and he had taken over the country. Doflamingo's reign was tyrannical as he had forced the citizens into submission, and he had transformed those who opposed him into toys, thus erasing their existence from the memories of others. These toys were controlled by Sugar, a member of his crew who has the ability to transform people with a Hobi Hobi no Mi. Despite his public image as a benevolent king, Doflamingo ruled Dressrosa with an iron iron fist. He advanced his operations in the black market and had continued his vendetta against the world. His control over the kingdom of Dressrosa had granted him a level of legitimacy while also allowing him to manufacture and distribute smiles, thus maintaining his power and influence. Doflamingo's reign began to unravel with the arrival of Luffy and the Straw Hat Pirates, as Luffy was driven by his own sense of justice and he was motivated by Law's grand scheme to eventually take on Kaido, as he had decided to challenge Doflamingo's rule. The battle between Doflamingo and Luffy was fierce and intense. Doflamingo's mastery of his devil fruit powers and haki had made him a formidable opponent. Ultimately, it took Luffy's Gear 4th, a powerful transformation which significantly increased his strength and speed, in order to finally break Doflamingo down. The fall of Doflamingo marked the end of his tyrannical rule over Dressrosa and the liberation of its people. Following his defeat, Doflamingo was captured by Admiral Fujitora and he was taken into custody by the Marines. His defeat sent shockwaves throughout the world, disrupting the balance of power in the underworld and the New World. The repercussions of his downfall were far-reaching. It had affected the operations of the Yonko and the ongoing conflicts within the world of One Piece. In prison, Doflamingo remained defiant, and he was confident that his legacy and the chaos that he had sown would continue to shape the world. Doflamingo's character is inspired by various historical and literary sources. One of the most evident inspirations is the novel Don Quixote, and the name Don Quixote is a clear nod to the titular character of this work, who was a delusional knight who dreams of reviving chivalry and protecting the helpless. Unlike this novel's tragic but yet noble main character, Doflamingo's character embodies a twisted form of chivalry where his sense of justice and nobility is corrupted by his upbringing and experiences. Doflamingo's background as a former celestial dragon who falls from grace also resembles historical figures who experienced a dramatic fall from power and subsequently sought to reclaim their lost status by any means necessary. His character reflects the complexities of such individuals who are driven by a desire to regain their former glory, regardless of the cost or moral implications. Many aspects of Doflamingo's character can be better understood through his relationship with his brother Doflamingo Rocinante. Rocinante was named after the horse within the Don Quixote novel that I've just mentioned. Rocinante had worked against the delusions of Doflamingo, and he had grown up under the same circumstances as him. However, even during their childhood in Merijo, it was clear that Rocinante had a different sense of morality compared to his brother. While Doflamingo quickly adapted to the celestial dragon worldview, embracing their sense of superiority over all other life forms, Rocinante followed their parents' more sympathetic moral perspective. The fall of their family's fortunes was a defining event for both brothers, as it had exposed them to the world's cruelty from the opposite ends of the spectrum. This environment profoundly impacted them in drastically different ways. They were traumatized by both the harsh treatment that they had from common people as well as the loss of their privileged lives. Doflamingo developed a deep-seated hatred for both commoners and the celestial dragons, and this hatred fueled his ruthless ambition to reclaim power and exact revenge on the world. In contrast, Rocinante retained a compassionate heart, deeply affected by the suffering that he had witnessed, and this was including the death of their mother. This divergence in coping mechanisms set them on opposite paths, and it ultimately led to Rocinante betraying his brother in order to ensure Law had received the Opi Opi no Mi, thus saving his life. Doflamingo's response to this betrayal was swift and brutal. Upon discovering Rocinante's actions, he was filled with a mix of rage and sorrow. Despite these intense emotions, Doflamingo did not hesitate to execute his brother. This act highlighted the irreconcilable differences between the two of them, as it was Doflamingo's unyielding pursuit of power against Rocinante's steadfast commitment to compassion and justice. Their relationship underscores several key themes within One Piece. Firstly, it explores the impact of environment and upbringing on individuals, and despite sharing the same traumatic childhood, Doflamingo and Rocinante's paths had diverged dramatically due to their internal responses to suffering. Secondly, it emphasizes the theme of moral choice. Roshinante's decision to betray his brother, knowing the likely fatal consequences, highlights his unwavering commitment to doing what he believes is right, even at the cost of his own life. Doflamingo's interactions with his crew often blur the line between genuine care and strategic control. On one hand, he exhibits moments of concern and affection towards his subordinates. For example, he mourns the deaths of Virgo and Monet, indicating a level of personal attachment, and additionally he empowers his crew members by entrusting them with significant responsibilities and treating them as extensions of his will. However, these actions can be interpreted as strategic rather than purely emotional. Doflamingo understands the importance of loyalty for maintaining his power, and by showing care and respect, he ensures the unwavering allegiance of his subordinates, which is crucial for his operations. His care can be seen as a calculated move to foster loyalty and ensure the smooth functioning of his criminal empire. Doflamingo's willingness to discard those that he professes to care for is evident in his treatment of both his brother and Law. He had fully intended for his brother to sacrifice himself in order to perform the perineal youth surgery using the Opi-Opi-no-Mi, as this would have granted Doflamingo eternal youth at the cost of Roshinante's life. The groom, when circumstances had changed, he had intended to groom Law for the same role. Despite this, Doflamingo's disbelief, anger, and feelings of betrayal when both Roshinante and Law turned against him openly reveal the contradictory manner in which he views those closest to him. He cares for them, protects them, and supports them, but at the same time he expects them to die for him at his request if it benefits him. This complex dynamic highlights Doflamingo's manipulative nature, as well as his ability to both inspire fear and loyalty amongst his subordinates. Doflamingo's journey from a privileged celestial dragon to a feared pirate warlord highlights the corrupting influence of power. Born into one of the highest echelons of society, Doflamingo was exposed to the arrogance and cruelty of the celestial dragons. Unlike a character like Sabo, who was born with similar albeit less prestigious circumstances and rejected that arrogance, Doflamingo instead thrived in it. When it was suddenly taken away from him, he was unable to adapt to his new circumstances and had rejected the reality that he was forced into. This dramatic fall instilled in Doflamingo a deep-seated desire to reclaim power and never again be at the mercy of others. His subsequent actions, manipulating people, overthrowing kingdoms, and engaging in the black market demonstrate how his quest for power amplified his already twisted sense of morality and justice. Doflamingo's childhood experiences are crucial to understanding his character. The intense suffering that he had endured after his family's fall from grace had profoundly shaped his worldview. Witnessing his mother's death and experiencing the hatred of commoners who despised the celestial dragons had led to Doflamingo developing deep-seated resentment as well as a survivalist mentality. This trauma is evident in his ruthless behavior and his belief that the world is inherently cruel, as he uses this to justify his own cruelty as a means of survival and dominance. In One Piece, the concept of freedom is a recurring theme. Luffy and his crew seek freedom on the high seas as they embody a form of idealistic and adventurous liberty. In contrast, Doflamingo's version of freedom is twisted and authoritarian. He desires freedom from the constraints of morality and law, allowing him to impose his will onto others. His rule over Dressrosa, where he manipulates the citizens and erases their memories, is a perverse form of justice where he is the ultimate arbiter of right and wrong. Nothing sums up Doflamingo's view of justice and his relationship with power more than his own words. As he states in his speech, "Pirates are evil, the Marines are righteous," these terms have always changed throughout the course of history. Kids who have never seen peace and kids who have never seen war have different values. Those who stand at the top determine what's wrong and what's right. This very place is neutral ground. Justice will prevail, you say? But of course it will. Whoever wins this war becomes justice. If you've enjoyed this video and you want to see more One Piece character analysis videos, then definitely let me know your thoughts in the comments, and please do continue the discussion on Doflamingo's character. I find him to be one of the most fascinating villains within One Piece, and I've thoroughly enjoyed talking about his character in this video. So I look forward to reading all of your comments, and lastly, thank you for making it to the end of this one, and I cannot wait to see you in my next One Piece Explained video. If you enjoy my content, then you can support my channel through Patreon for as little as $1 a month, or even through YouTube by becoming a channel member. You will gain access to exclusive channel perks and a Discord server which I frequently use. So become a member of my Zero Division and be the first to know about my upcoming videos. And once again, thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.